I'd go knock on his door, and I'd say, Deshaun, let's have us a Michelob Ultra. And I would talk to him, and I'd do whatever it takes. I'd put my ego aside and I'd say, hey, the best thing for you is to stay right here. Make concessions, do whatever it takes. Do not lose that player.
Look, I understand what Jimmy Johnson's saying. I have a feeling he'd be drinking both Michelob Ultras if he was David Culley because Deshaun's not answering the door. You're not going to get him at this point. You're not going to get him to talk to you at this point. Beer's not going to do it. Nothing is going to do it at this point. I understand the importance of keeping him, but that's something the Texans should have taken into consideration before they poisoned the relationship to the point where he wants out. So what Charean Williams and I are going to do, we're going to put together proposed trade packages for Deshaun Watson, specific teams, specific terms. Charean, I'll let you go first with your number one trade possibility.
Well, we know that Deshaun Watson wants to play for Robert Saleh, or we think that, right? Because he wanted the Texans to talk to Robert Saleh. So the Jets make sense, and they also make sense because it's a big market team, and we know he wants the marketing deals, and he sees that as a good place to go for himself. He does have the no trade clause, so it's going to be a little bit up to him in where he goes. I think Carolina, for instance, is going to be a big player in this if the Texans truly are listening to offers, and I think they're having a great offer, but I don't know that Deshaun Watson is going to want to go to Carolina, even though he did play at Clemson. I think the Jets make the most sense because of all those reasons and because of the draft capital that they have. So I'm going to propose the trade of Quinnen Williams, Sam Darnold, even though he might not long-term be their quarterback, he could at least be a bridge quarterback. Their first rounder, the number 2 overall pick, in which they could use that on the second best quarterback in this draft. A third round pick this year, the number 66 overall pick, and a first rounder in 2022 as compensation for Deshaun Watson. I think that is a pretty good deal for both teams. Look, for wherever he goes, Mike, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt that team where he goes because it's going to cost a lot to get Deshaun Watson out of Houston.
Well, and see, that's the challenge for Deshaun Watson. You want out, but there's a sweet spot there of how much your new team gives up to get you because you don't want to jump from one 4-12 team to another 4-12 team because they've mortgaged too much of the future and or the present to allow you to be successful. If I'm the Texans, though, because my first proposal, same two teams, Texans, Jets. If I'm the Texans, I don't want your semi-failed former first-round picks, although Quinnen Williams came on pretty well late last year. I want draft capital. I want to do what the Browns did a few years ago where they tore it down and acquired as many draft picks as I possibly can. I want the 3rd overall pick. I want the first-round pick that the Jets got for Jamal Adams. And I want next year's Jets first-round pick, not the second Jamal Adams first-round pick. I want those 3 picks. That's the price of admission. To even continue the discussion with me, you got to come to the game with 3 first-round picks. Then we'll see how much more you may have to throw onto the pile because I'm going to try to set up an auction between you and maybe another team in your division. But 3 first-round picks minimum, and then you twist the teams that come with 3 first-round picks for another, whether it's a 3rd rounder, 2nd rounder, whatever it may be to get the deal done. So I don't want your players if I'm the Texans. I want your picks. All right, Charean, what's your second proposal?
Well, and I have players in this proposal too, Mike, but I think that the Texans would much prefer to have him go to an NFC team. We have no doubts about that. If they're going to trade him, get him to the NFC. Don't let him beat you in the AFC year after year after year because that's what he would do. So I'm going to say San Francisco 49ers because I think that'd be a place that he might want to go. He would agree to go to. Give me Jimmy Garoppolo. Give me Jeff Wilson because he just signed a restricted free agent tender. He's not going to cost all that much or an extension. I want Fred Warner, your best linebacker, because he is a playmaker on defense. We know that. Then I want your first rounder this year, which is number 12 overall. I want your first rounder next year, and I want your 2nd rounder in 2023.
Yeah, look, that makes sense as a destination. If I'm the 49ers, though, I think psychologically it becomes very difficult to trade that much stuff for a guy you could have had. They could have had Deshaun Watson.
Yep.
they didn't do the homework on Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes or any of the quarterbacks in the 2017 draft because Kyle Shanahan thought he was getting Kirk Cousins via free agency in 2018. So my proposal number 2 would be to the Miami Dolphins. Same idea. Give me back my first-round pick, which is 3rd overall. That went to the Dolphins as part of the Laramie Tunsil trade. And I want at least 2 more first-round picks. Your other earned first-round pick this year and your first-round pick next year to get to the table, to get to the auction between you and the Jets. This is a way that Nick Caserio can undo a lot of the dysfunction. You play this the right way. You get the Dolphins pitted against the Jets, and they start, bidding higher and higher and higher to get the guy and to keep him from going to the other team. Now, I also don't want Tua Tagovailoa because I'm not sold on Tua Tagovailoa. I'll get my quarterback somewhere else. I don't want Tua. Maybe I'll get Matthew Stafford. Maybe I'll find someone else, but I don't want Tua Tagovailoa. I want draft capital, 3 first-round picks, plus whatever else I can squeeze out of you as I pit the Dolphins against the Jets, Charean.
And it'd be a good way to rebuild, Mike, because they don't have draft capital. They don't have cap space. They're a long way from contending, even if they do keep Deshaun Watson, which leads me into the Texans are going to mess this up somehow, some way. We've seen it repeatedly. So I'm not even going to go for a 3rd trade scenario. I'm going to say they're going to try to hold on to him. They're going to wait until after the draft, which is a huge mistake. If you're going to trade him, you have to do it before the draft because you have to get a quarterback and you have to figure out what you're going to do for your future. It has to be before the draft. But I think they're going to mess this up to the point of it's going to be after the draft. They're going to sit on it. They're going to think they can talk him into coming back. Well, he has a contract. He's coming back. Of course he's coming back. We said he's coming back, and he's not going to come back. So I see them messing this whole thing up, Mike, and maybe trading him at some point in training camp or into the season and not getting the fair market value that they should have gotten.
I think that that is far more likely than the scenario I'm about to propose, that they will screw it up and he will be there, and maybe they end up trading him at the deadline to someone for a lot less than they could have gotten in March. I've got a crazy 3-teamer in mind, which would involve Deshaun Watson being traded to the Patriots and Matthew Stafford being traded to the Texans. So the Texans would get Stafford. The Patriots would send a first-round pick to the Texans, a first-round pick to the Lions to get Stafford to Houston, plus some other picks, 2nd round, 3rd round. Now, you're not getting your 3 first-round picks that way, but you are getting Matthew Stafford, and the Lions are getting a 1 for Matthew Stafford, but a 3-team deal where the Pats get Deshaun Watson, Bill Belichick and Nick Caserio work together to craft this thing that they then sell to Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions. It gets the Texans a quarterback. It gets the Patriots a quarterback. It keeps Watson from the Jets or the Dolphins, and it allows Belichick and Caserio to renew acquaintances. That's crazy enough that it's probably more likely than a simple deal, but I could see some sort of a 3-team trade here, Charean, because you want, if you're the Texans, to get a quarterback, you don't necessarily want Sam Darnold or Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, or if you're going to get a high draft pick, Mike, you want that high draft pick, 2, 3, 4 range so that you can get a young quarterback that you hope develops into Deshaun Watson. But, Mike, the problem for the Texans is when you look at those teams with those high picks, they're all AFC teams.
Yeah, that's right. And you're going to have to deal with the possibility that Deshaun Watson isn't leaving the conference. But, Nick Caserio needs to spend every hour of every day thinking about trade scenarios. And feel free to take our advice, Nick. You're guaranteed to get your money's worth.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.